Just us.
Just us.
All right, we're back to recap 3 games for the second time. Don't ask what happened about the first time, camera issues. But we're going to recap the last 3 games the Warriors played, which unfortunately,
resulted in an 0-3 outcome.
yes.
And that means they lost 3 games in a row.
So where are we in the standings?
So the Warriors have slipped to the 9th seed, below 500 again. Not a great look, especially since the Warriors do need to improve in order to get a good play-in spot.
Yes, we were hoping there would be 7-8, which kind of helps in the play-in. You get a better lifeline almost to make it out of that and get to the playoffs, but it doesn't look like we'll be in that spot as far as we can tell.
In the last 10 games, the Warriors have gone 3-7, which has not been, a good outcome for the team.
No.
So let's recap the last 3 games. And the last game that we did talk about was the game versus the Rockets. Now, versus the Rockets, I think there was a lot of momentum, a lot of energy. The Warriors won in overtime by 2 points.
Yeah.
And we were pretty moderated, I think, in our analysis of the game.
Yeah.
Because we kind of knew it wasn't sustainable.
Yeah, I think we mentioned it was fluky. It felt like a fluke. And we also talked about what I specifically said, that I would get more excited and confident in the team once they can consistently beat teams 500 or above. We just lost to 2 teams that are below 500 and intentionally losing and still weren't able to beat them. So that is why we weren't that excited. And I think we were proven correct in that regard, unfortunately.
Let's talk about the game versus OKC. OKC, defending champions. They have SGA, the MVP, last year's MVP. Yeah, Foul Merchant, as he's called. The Warriors had their 30th different starting lineup this season. What was interesting is it was the return of Kristaps Porzingis. So it's his second game playing as a Warrior.
Played pretty well.
He did. It was only his second game in the last 59 days. So
He still looked rusty, but still contributed, and you could see how he would fit in healthy.
he's freakishly tall.
He's
He's 7'2".
Yeah.
Towers above many. He kind of has a little bit of Wemby style in terms of like he can shoot threes.
I mean,
It's
Wemby
really
has
tall.
His style,
Yeah.
technically.
Technically, yes.
Yeah, I mean, like, we
Kristaps
saw
was
him
first.
fairly recent. We saw him today, or day of recording, standing next to a basketball hoop, and my thought was, how does he miss?
Yeah, he doesn't have
He's
to
tall
jump.
enough that he could just like place the ball in the net. But obviously, that's a silly way to look at it. But yeah.
Yeah. So the Warriors lost 104-97, but it wasn't a complete blowout. I think that's what we were expecting for that game to be. So there were certainly some bright spots. Guy Santos was the star of the game with a double-double, 22 points, 11 rebounds.
Yeah.
It just wasn't enough.
Guy, over this last 3-game streak, losing and 1 win, Guy has been the consistent. Like, Guy has been good. He's been putting in the effort. You can tell. He had a couple games where he was missing layups and that kind of stuff, but everyone has him, and he isn't to blame for those losses, those things. I think those would have happened in an ordinary game anyway. It's just that they were on the bad end of a beating at the same time, and it just makes what Guy missed look much worse, I think.
Yeah, I think they need to run more offense through Guy when he's on the floor.
Yeah.
And that's our conclusion over the past few games.
Yeah, because he just drives. And the issue that we talk about that they had persistently in these games was continuing to shoot threes when the threes aren't going in.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's something that we're unsure where to lay the blame. As you know, is it the coaches that aren't directing the players well enough, or are the players just ignoring it? When do the adjustments happen? Why aren't they happening? So it's hard to say who's to blame, but it's just confusing that we as onlookers can repeatedly identify that's a problem, but the people on the court who are being paid to identify the problems for some reason don't recognize them. So maybe we're misreading something. I don't know.
We very well could be.
Or they need to hire us.
Yeah, please do. But I think it's like you build an offense around Steph, and it's an offense that is centered around shooting 3-pointers. When that person is missing and the efficiency isn't there from anybody else, of course it's not going to look great.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, let's grade the performance of the Warriors versus OKC. What would you give them?
I'll give them a C. I think when you lose, for me, the ceiling is a C. and then it's just kind of like gradations of that. But I'll give them a C plus because they played hard. It wasn't a blowout. They kind of held their own for just stood their ground for long enough that it looked like at some points where it could be doable, but ultimately it was a loss. So C plus, I would say.
I would also give them a C plus. I think, as you said, there were glimmers of hope. They didn't. The Thunder didn't have Chet Holmgren. They didn't have Isaiah Hartenstein. They didn't have their two tallest players. They also didn't have Jalen Williams. So I thought maybe the Warriors could squeak out a win. But ultimately, I would also give them a C plus for their performance.
And then the Magic came along.
Yes. What can we say? They played the Jazz next. The Jazz are actively trying to tank.
The Jazz. I thought we played the Magic.
The Magic. I was like, what kind of magic are you talking about?
I mean, there was no magic from
Absolutely
the Warriors, that's
none.
for sure.
We'll say the Jazz displayed some magic.
I don't even think they did. I think they played mediocre basketball and somehow still won.
So there were players on the Jazz who I've never heard of them.
They all had the Walmart employee that is for some reason having his like career day, which happens to every
All the
team.
time.
I always say like there's either a Walmart employee, a Safeway employee, or Home Depot employee that just suddenly appears and you're like, who the hell is this and why is he scoring like this?
Yeah. The Warriors lost 119 to 116. I think the reason for the loss was really bad shot selection. They shot 52 threes. And didn't make a lot of those, let's just say. So they didn't need to take that many threes, and they also missed a lot of free throws. They missed 7 free throws, lost by 3 points. They're called free throws for a reason. They are free and should be made. But yeah, I think the Jazz, I don't even think you could say they outplayed the Warriors.
Yeah.
The Warriors just didn't.
The Warriors tanked better than
Yeah.
the Jazz was tanking. So at tanking, the Warriors are great right now.
Yeah.
Even though they're like, we're not tanking. They
But
accidentally
are they?
tanking.
They're accidentally
Yeah.
tanking.
Yeah,
We're
just
not really sure what the strategy
Warriors
is.
are playing their hardest and playing so poorly that it looks like they're tanking.
It's because they have the C team on the court,
But that
right?
team has won before.
Sparingly.
Yeah.
Sparingly.
Yeah,
Again,
yeah.
they're 3-7 in the last 10. This game was the return of Seth Curry. So he hasn't played since December with sciatica. He has a higher 3-point shooting percentage than his brother Steph.
Played well.
He played very well. I think he will add an element of shooting that is much needed right now.
He can stretch and pull people away, not to the degree that his brother can, but he's a shooting threat that people take seriously.
Exactly. And he's bounced back very well.
Yeah.
Did we already talk about the grade that we gave the Jazz?
I think I mean, like, again, ceiling is a C because they lost. And also, I think the performance-wise, it pulls it down to a D for me. They didn't perform like a Warriors team should be playing at their worst. Somehow they were worse than the worst Warriors performances this time. So that's a D for me.
I would also give it a D.
Yeah. I think the next one's much worse.
Yeah, let's just start with the Warriors played the Bulls and lost 130 to 124. The Bulls are also actively trying to tank.
They're trying to lose.
And the Warriors were out-rebounded. The Bulls had so many points in the paint. The shooting efficiency wasn't there from the Warriors. If I could give them a grade below an F, I would. Because this was just, it was a mess. This game was forced into overtime. Draymond committed a silly foul at the end.
When it looked like we were about to win.
We were about to win.
If Draymond hadn't fouled on that 3, we would have won. Chances of that 3 going in were pretty low, but he did the thing that no one should do. Like, it's the worst mistake you can make at that point, which for a veteran of his caliber and a player of his caliber with the pedigree that he has, just is pretty much unacceptable, man. Like, he basically his performance and that mistake has put the Warriors in a much worse position. Like, this is not the beginning of the season where you can like just write it off and move on. That loss was why we went down in the standings.
Yeah, we're weeks away from the playoffs. Every win counts.
Yeah, and it's frustrating because we've talked about this previously, but Draymond being put into games is a issue for me because he doesn't gel with all the units, and he seems to, when he's placed into a team, even like the last moments like they did with the Bulls game, he potentially disrupts the flow of the team that's there. The team that was there prior to him being subbed in was winning. They were on track to secure the victory. He was subbed in for defensive reasons, and it ruined the flow of how that team was performing and ultimately led to a loss. And I just don't understand why the the coaching team isn't able to just identify that Draymond's a great player. He still is a great player. He's one of the smartest players in the league. It's not that he's bad, and that's why they shouldn't put him on. They shouldn't put him on because the way he plays could disrupt what is happening at that moment. Like, don't ruin a good thing. But they seem to just do that repeatedly. Sometimes, most of the time it's with Draymond, but they also do it with pods occasionally now and then. But I just don't understand why they don't step back and look at it. Again, if we can identify it, why is it that they can't see it?
Exactly. So I think I already gave my grade an F, and if I could give them anything below that, maybe I would. But let's give it an F.
I give them an F. A British U, which is a U is, for people who don't know, when you're so bad in whatever exam you've taken that you don't even register on a scale. So they're just like, U for you, a dumbass, or uncategorized.
Let's keep it at F. Yeah. I think we're aligned there. Well, let's talk about Steph. Because he was reevaluated, and unfortunately his issue with his knee has been persistent, and he's going to miss another 10 days, which is roughly 5 games.
He's practicing on court now, so progress. But 5 games is pretty much, this takes you to the end of the season.
There's about 4 weeks left. Yeah. Let's just call that a week and a half of games. Yes, it's cutting it pretty close.
Yeah, and at this point, if he comes back, is, a hope and a prayer that they make it into the playoffs, the play-in. He comes in and doesn't have any rust and can carry them through the play-in and then into the playoffs. And then somehow, Winter Soldier Steph comes back and, the sleeve comes out and he goes beast mode and somehow gets us further than... I would see, if we make it to the playoffs, I would see that as a consolation prize for the Warriors this season. Considering... they have had an awful season, a lot of it because of bad luck and injuries. But if they can get to the playoffs, at least you can look back and go, we made the playoffs.
Exactly. So I think it's just about putting in that effort at the end. We do need Steph back. Let's see what happens over the course of the next 5 games without him. With Seth back, with Kristaps back. Can this team gel together and produce some wins?
Yeah, at the very least, they're getting experience so that whoever comes back next season, when hopefully Jimmy's back and Steph is back, they will be in a better, more mature, more experienced phase of their career.
Exactly. Well, let's look ahead quickly to the next game. The Warriors are playing the Timberwolves.
Yikes,
Anthony Edwards. What should we look for in that matchup in that game?
Anthony Edwards is what you should look for. I hate to be a pessimist, but I don't have high hopes for it. Maybe we might get lucky and have a OKC style performance. I'm not a betting man, and no one else should be either. I'm one of those people who's get betting out of sports. But if I had to, I wouldn't bet on the Warriors, sadly. I would love to be surprised. I hope I can be surprised by them. I hope this team comes back and is hey, we actually have it in us to occasionally cause some upsets. But I'm preparing myself for the worst.
Okay. Well, we will see you versus the Timberwolves. Just us on 3. 1, 2, 3. Just us.